People might recall that I was down here last Friday for the historic and frankly historically disgraceful lawfare sentencing of Donald Trump. There was something else I was doing during that broadcast. I was testing kind of like a mobile data resiliency system that I'm trying to put together. Didn't seem to work properly. There was a lot of disruption to that broadcast. It's going to be difficult to recreate what was happening on Friday because we don't have, the same kind of setup here. There was a lot of news trucks over there and everything. New York definitely presents a unique problem from the standpoint of, mobile data and radio, anything. It's a soup of RF communications around here, lots and lots of interference. I think a lot of people presumed it was digital harassment. I have a tendency towards that. The cops have definitely done things in this park in the past that have been questionable. We've seen them shut down my live streams. Orrin Levi has, this is his stomping ground. We've seen those potential Miles Guoc, whatever that dude's name is, potential operatives. I think they are very aggressive older Chinese people who are super into Trump. Maybe they're normal Trump fans. Maybe, again, this is all, I'm just going around kind of observing things, gathering evidence. People can form their own opinions. Right now I'm conducting a test of a new system that I hope will work. I was having some problems with it the other day, of course. But again, I said, even at the top of that broadcast, it was most likely, had to presume that is, that the most likely cause of that issue was this implementation of a totally new system. I mean, when you super reconfigure everything and then a persistent problem shows up that's never been there before, it's sort of got to be suspect number one. But again, we have seen the cops mess with me. Now look at this. It looks like this construction is sort of done. What do we have here? Richard Haas, immigration on the Lower East Side of New York in 1989. So I guess this would be a lot of Russian immigration, a la Felix Sater. It's around, well, no, he came before then, right? He came when he was 6, and he's a few years older than me, so he came in the late 70s. I don't know what this is, but this is some new police building or court building, criminal lockup, something like that. There's a lot of radio stuff in use around over here. So if there's going to be interference, this is a good place to test for it. Lots of weird court stuff going on as well. They're building a new jail, I think, is what this is. I mean, that's good timing. There's a lot of people who are going to need to go in there. So anyway, I've substantially reconfigured this system since Friday, given some thought to the particular problem that came up, and I hope I've resolved it. This video will be a test. But still, it's known that we do have digital harassment from the police, from the FBI. People have seen it. I mean, it seems to be what George's brother has been engaged in for the past 8 years. Hard to believe. Become a sponsor, please, on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'm trying to think where. See, walking into that park, the signal definitely cut out that day. It's not that it cut out, it's that there's a Wi-Fi connection between the phone on this stick and the phone on my wrist that controls the broadcast. And when that gets disrupted, this whole system can fail in a variety of different ways. I didn't invent any of this stuff, but I am, implementing it together, perhaps in a unique, novel way. I mean, people know about all the technologies that I'm using. It's just that I'm configuring them. Anyway, point of the matter is, we've seen that type of digital harassment in that park before. the last time I was in there when Oren Levi was harassing me with some big Vietnamese guy. And also that asshole Chinese lady who was there on Friday. She was part of the mix. I mean, again, this is the sort of stuff when I say, oh, I think this person might work for the police. Somebody got pissed off today that I said that about Scott Libido. I mean, sorry if you like Scott and don't like hearing that. You're free to disagree with me, by the way. I could be wrong. This is my opinion based on evidence. And then the guys like, oh, yeah, can I see it? It's like, listen, Dick, I'm not here to be your personal tour guide into who is working for the cops or not. Become a sponsor or don't. You could just go on there for free on Odyssey and see most of these videos. You can subscribe on Odyssey totally for free. Odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth. It's when you choose to become a member on Odyssey for as little as $3 a month. That's when you get access to the sponsor-exclusive content, 58-cent fee for Odyssey as well. But you're supporting Crowdsource the Truth, you're supporting Odyssey, which is important because I hear a lot of people complain they don't like censorship on YouTube or elsewhere, but then you've got to support these alternate platforms. So I hope that people will check out Odyssey. But anyway, somebody was getting pissed off that I said I think Scott Libido works for the police. But I mean, I'm sorry, I think that. Just go in there to Odyssey and click on the content tab. Here's Haiti. It's a funny joke. Maybe the people who started it are Haitian. But you click on the content tab and search for NYPD, search for Staten Island, search for Max Pub. There was that time that Charles and I were walking by the, what's it called, George, George Burchard or something, that gallery that was selling all the Hunter Biden crap. And we walked by there and Scott Libido had some sort of activism thing going on outside. We got the Zulu Nation planning their next crime. Scott Libido was out there doing some sort of art activism thing. And I didn't notice this at the time. I mean, Charles and I just showed up unexpected. And Cara, what's her name, Johnny Tobacco's girlfriend, who invited BLM to speak at the anti-vax, pro-freedom, not anti-vax, pro-freedom rally. All these people who always seem to have the cops standing around them in crowds, like acting like bodyguards, undercover cops, Oren Levi style. Anyway, I didn't notice this at the time. Charles and I were just talking to Scott, and Cara was freaking out in the background that apparently just because we were there. And then Johnny Tobacco came over and started talking to us. I'm just saying, as I go back and look at the years of video that I have from different events that these guys have done and stuff, how do they get police bodyguards? I seem to be getting assaulted by people who might be police bodyguards. These guys are protected by them. Also, that whole Max Pub thing, that had Oren Levi all over it. He was like emailing me, telling me to go to that. Showed up there. Remember, with some crazy hooker, he was like, oh, dude, you should talk to this girl. I mean, and so this annoyed person on X, which if you're not following on X, there's so much action on there, at JG_CSTT. You can also subscribe on X right now. But this person got all upset. And what was I going to say? Anyway, the point is, oh yeah, right, no. He said, well, why? What's the purpose? And the answer is it would be to control the narrative, which is what the police want to do. So these guys are upset that I'm recording them. They know they're breaking the law. It's all stolen stuff. Maybe the cops have recently been busting the stolen stuff vendors, but what do you think that those guys just freaked out when the camera turned on them? Would you buy your Apple iPod, mega headphones from those dudes?
No.
Didn't look like Steve Jobs to me. What's that?
It's fake.
Of course, stolen, broken, who knows what. Be safe, you guys. So, see, some people know what's going on. Anyway, the digital harassment. So, it goes back to Oren Levi. Remember? He came up to me April, what was it? 20th, April 4th, something like that. Maybe April 4th, 2020, early in the pandemic. Because remember, I was out there telling people, hey, wait a minute. The hospitals don't look so crowded. This thing came from India. It sure looks like it. Is this the future of New York? People delivering stuff in little shit boxes like that? That's the summit. I don't want to get too confident, but I'm hopeful that I've resolved the problem and do now have a very resilient failover mobile system. This is the multimodal multimedia array. That's what it stood for. That was MAMA. I couldn't remember that when I was in DC. But yeah, I've been working on this. Like I said, a lot of people saw the failures of it with shows done with Ken Silva and John Cullen and Sal Greco. I was still testing the thing out. But the point is, sometimes, you think about something for a while, you put it together, you're like, okay, this is how it's going to work. And then you go to the testing, and that's where you really figure things out. But anyway, digital harassment. How the hell did Oren Levi recognize me back in April 2020 from a block, half a block behind me at least, from behind? Where the camera is looking forward during that moment where he approaches me, and we don't see him come up. In fact, there's a window we could see his reflection of him running right at me, and he's like, oh, hey, how the hell did he know I was there? We've spoken about this Clearview AI, which was facial recognition software that the cops were using. They got in trouble for and had to stop. That was Jessica Tisch. She was, according to Sal, some kind of technology liaison to the police. I mean, I think that's the only way he could possibly recognize me. The police have these various surveillance cameras around. Here, maybe there's one right there. I don't know why this doesn't work the way it used to. What happens if we... There we go. Is that... Nah, that's just probably a sensor to turn that light on. Are we now in the mode I want it to be in? I'm not really sure. Let's see. It's kind of wobbly, no? We'll see. Anyway, the point is the police have all kinds of sensors all around. Cameras. One of them might see me. Let's walk over there. Although it doesn't even matter what's there now. 4 years ago, what's there now, what could have been there then, who knows? The point is, the guy didn't see me. He had some technology assisting him, telling him, ooh, there's Jason, go get him. Also, do people remember the time Charles and I were walking down 8th Avenue and somebody just popped out of a building right behind us? That time the camera was in selfie mode. We could see the guy come out. I got to find that. If anybody remembers where that is or has clipped that, please send it to me. But the guy comes out of the building and he whispers in my ear, how's George? I've spoken about this a lot because I want people to hear about it and think about it. That's obviously not something that a fan of the show who's trying to say a polite hello would say. In my view, I don't think it is. Now, see, walking around here in the past, I have gotten jammed up a bit with radio problems. So we're testing this system. The idea is going to be to go anywhere, stream anywhere. I mean, obviously you got to have access to the mobile network, but this makes it much more robust, hopefully. And I think I know why it was disconnecting. I don't think necessarily that it was digital harassment last Friday, but I'm describing some of the other ways these guys get involved with digital harassment. Oren Levi coming up to me on the street. We know that Jessica Tisch is now the police commissioner, so maybe they're back to using who knows what kind of technology. We also remember when Oren Levi and that rude Chinese lady and that bruiser Vietnamese dude were up in my grill the cops just straight shut off the live stream. Remember? Because I said, wait a minute, is this your police bodyguard? And there's an undercover cop, there's an undercover cop. So they didn't like that at all, I don't think. And they just cut off the live stream. But that was almost seemed like a phone call or a direct police line to YouTube, which it stands to reason that they would have. Like if somebody were doing a crime and live streaming it on YouTube, I would think an organization like the NYPD has some emergency number to YouTube. Boom, cut this stream off. And that's what they did to me there. But what I'm talking about more is, radio-based devices that could be portable, could be worn, could be inside a vehicle. Like the other day, last week, whatever it was, January 6th, in DC, speaking to that porno mustache guy. Now look at that. So see, this is a spot where I've had disconnects from the So how do we resolve that now? That's a real pain. That's incredibly annoying. Well, that spot is definitely a spot where it, I think, pretty much always happens. So there's something happening over there. So that was a good test, I guess. But that's annoying that it can't protect against that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, look, this thing is a radio device, so there's going to be something that can be done to it to disrupt it. I guess we just need to continue walking around. If that happens multiple times, then the problem hasn't been solved. If it always happens there, don't go there, I guess is the answer. But we'll see. Anyway, what I was trying to say is the type of deliberate digital harassment, that can be an IMSI catcher, that type of facial recognition software. Who knows what they have now that we haven't thought about? I mean, April 2020 was 5 years ago. It's kind of a long time already in the world of technology. Perhaps Oren Levi would have some even more advanced way to thwart and harass me. Maybe he does, and he's using it. Cybertruck just went that away. Hopefully no one will blow it up with their passport in it. That story died down quite a bit, didn't it? No story can stay at the top of the news for very long at all. Look at these fine canines. That's quite a pack there. But anyway, I was thinking about Oren Levi and all these different people who work for the cops, because they seem to be everywhere. Ezra Frisch. Everywhere I go, these morons are around. People might remember I was talking to this guy in the park on Friday. Here we go, more Trump flags.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
How you doing? I've seen you here in the park before, haven't I? Yeah. You don't want to take the mask off?
No.
Don't you think it's deceptive to appear in public with a mask? What are all these? You always seem to have weird symbols on your jacket. Are you the guy that's been talking to Ian Carroll? I think you are.
Who's that?
Yeah, that's you.
What's up?
That was you. So what do you? Yeah. Didn't people find that interesting? How quickly he said, "Oh no, who's that?" When I asked him about Ian Carroll. Sorry to the guy who was a viewer who was recognizing me and trying to talk to me. I didn't mean to be rude to that guy, but I was just focused on this. But notice he even said, "Oh, this guy's Antifa." So I mean, he knows what I'm talking about. He's seen that guy before. I forget that person's name who came up to me, the older gentleman with the hat, not the guy with the mask. But the kid with the mask, we've seen him in the park before. And right, so I saw him on somebody else's video with Oren Levi. Look at this.
What are your patches mean? Huh?
Trolling.
You're trolling?
Yeah.
Are they Velcro or are they stitch on?
You're stitched on.
Okay. So you're here to troll?
Yeah.
Are you a Trump supporter?
I am a Trump supporter, yeah.
Do you want to speak?
About what?
Just like comment about like your experience here today?
Sure.
All right, so wait, hold on.
So, I mean, there you go. That's definitely the same guy, right? He's got his Kekistan patch. His voice is the same. He's got the same mask or similar mask. And I mean, the question is it this guy?
This is Jules Kwang. I'm Ian Carroll, if you don't know. And Jules has a hell of a story that I have a million questions about. So Jules, thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah,
I really
thanks for having me.
it.
Yeah.
And I assume most people that are watching this don't know anything about you.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give us like the elevator pitch of what this documentary that you've been working on filming for the last 4 years is, and just give us like the 60-second pitch of what it is?
Yeah. So this documentary is about a bit of a journey into Antifa and the Proud Boys. I infiltrated. Oh, hi. This documentary is about back in 2019. I infiltrated Antifa and then eventually the Proud Boys. I traveled the country filming much of the George Floyd riots, and then also the Proud Boys were there too.
So you're doing like undercover filming.
Notice at the end there how Ian prompts him, keeps him back on topic. You were doing undercover filming. I mean, maybe the guy's just a space cadet, but is that the same guy? What did he say his name was? Jules.
This is Jules Kwang. I'm Ian Carroll, if you don't know.
Jules Kwang. And, Ian even says, oh, maybe a lot of people haven't heard of this Jules Kwang. I never heard of him before. I mean, maybe that's him with the mask. I don't know. What do you think? Looks like the same guy. Sounds like he could be the same guy. So he's telling us that he went undercover and he infiltrated Antifa. He infiltrated the Proud Boys. And now what? Is he infiltrating pro-Trump movement? I don't know what he's doing. Let's not walk through there. They're doing some kind of leaf blower deal. I think you'd have to be crazy to buy this. Rivian, aren't they going out of business? So yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're getting good results. It's annoying that we lost it over there. So that's a street to not walk on in New York City, and that's a trick to recover when that type of failure happens. But what do people think? Is that Jules Kwang? I mean, Ian is an interesting guy in and of himself, right? I never heard of him until he started showing up saying like, ooh, who knows about this guy, Quinn Michaels? And it's like, wait a minute. Is that an accident that one social engineer is asking about another social engineer? Not to make an assumption, but Quinn Michaels was absolutely in that whole crew, lied to me and about me, created all kinds of problems. See, one of the moves that these losers like to do is to embed people in your organization and then have them flip. We see them doing that with Donald Trump all the time. What's her name there? The one who said he squoze through the limousine window to fight the Secret Service, Ashley Hutchinson or whatever her name is, Cassidy Hutchinson, whatever the hell her name is. Book deal, please. What's her name? But anyway, the point is they want to embed people in your organization and then get those people to flip, right? So Quinn Michaels gets introduced to me by George Webb, and then he's like, oh yeah, George and his brother, they're terrible. Let's you and I work together and be friends and build a monetized, sponsored show. Actually, that was for Quinn. Remember when he was in the hospital? He needed money, and I said, well, let's try a show on Patreon. His was the first monetized show. We did some great shows together. You can still see him on Odyssey. Look at that. See, NYU has now taken this opportunity to permanently make this a security area. So they're a public charity. This is like probably part of it, a park or certainly a sidewalk, and now they've just taken control of it as if it's their private property. I bet you that's not legal. They're just such assholes, it's not worth fighting. But Ian shows up, he's asking about Quinn Michaels. Oh, this whole theory of Bitcoin and AI. I don't know if Quinn Michaels knew what he was talking about with that or not, but it was interesting that Ian started talking about that, and then I haven't heard him say anything else about it at all. It does seem like a hook to get to me. And you know, he had a very large X account. I'm still trying to grow at JG_CSTT. So when somebody with 1 million or however many he's got there on Twitter starts poking around with your tweets, you're generally interested in that. Now look at this. This used to be like a stationery and school supply store. Now it's craft beer and smoke. Yeah, that's, I mean, that follows, right? But, yeah, so he shows up asking about Quinn. Then he joins up with George Webb. Wasn't that a surprise? A lot of people think Ian has credibility, but he was promoting George on that whole, what's the kid's name? Balaji, the OpenAI software engineer. Suchir Balaji, I think his name is, committed suicide or was murdered, found dead in his apartment. George starts reporting on it, traipsing through wet blood weeks after the guy is dead. I don't know how that blood got there. George is talking about an autopsy. I wrote to the medical examiner in San Francisco. They said the autopsy hasn't been released yet. And then George's brother starts, I don't know what, threatening them with a lawsuit or saying, I'm going to sue them or something. He's writing to other people telling them that I'm going to sue them. I'm not. It's idiotic. But anyway, that's the nature of this social engineering. So, yeah, I mean, Ian is interviewing that dude. He's there in the park. He's hanging out with Oren Levi. You know, everybody knows Oren Levi works for the cops or does something for the cops. I see, that's the thing. Sal knows that he's closely associated with the cops, but he doesn't quite agree with me when I say that he works for the cops. I'm not saying he's like on the official NYPD payroll, but they've got ways of getting him paid. Frankly, the social media account, that's all you need, right? He's got hundreds of thousands between whatever he's doing with Leroy. I forget what the names of his stupid accounts are. But he's got his viral news. Yeah, and he's always trying to license those clips. So the cops just give him access to stuff, and then he's finding ways to monetize it. I don't understand why he's not focusing on a CBD business if that's sort of pseudo-legal now or legal or whatever. You'd think now would be the heyday for somebody trying to get into the legal weed business, particularly if he knows the cops or has some kind of angle there. So I don't really know what the deal is with Oren Levi, but that's the thing. These guys, remember David Hawkins used to talk about this, the different ways that they get these people paid because they don't want it to be, it's not a check going out. Can't have it like that. Maybe that's why George's brother got so bent out of shape when I discovered his name on the NIH staff directory there. They don't want you to know how these guys are getting paid, I guess. Maybe when I say, oh, this guy works for the cops, Sal is thinking, no, that's impossible. He's either a uniformed officer or a civilian employee, and that works like this and that and the other thing, and I know he's not. But that's not what I mean, you know? He works for the cops in the way these Caban Brothers private security teams work for the cops. Unofficial, you know, mobster type stuff. Eric Adams. We've seen that picture of Oren Levi hanging out with Eric Adams. Let me see if I can find that. I've shown it a million times. I'm not going to dig in for that now. It's a whole big deal and I'm wearing gloves. But hopefully, aside from that one spot, I mean, it's not going to be the only spot on Earth or even the only spot in Manhattan, but something strong interfering over there that always seems to knock out the camera like that, and there's not usually a way to get it back without ending the broadcast. It's a very annoying problem. So yeah, I don't think it was digital harassment the other day. I think it was an incorrect setting on a very complex arrangement. This was not the best test, or maybe it was, walking right through an area where I know there's strong interference. I mean, there was a lot of cutoffs the other day walking around here, so I don't know, maybe people will think that means the cops had somebody following me. It's doubtful. We'll continue to test around the city and see how this new system does. And not just around New York, this can be tested everywhere. I mean, no, yeah, it could be international, but I don't really have any plans of doing that. That would be more complicated. Let's see, what else is... Yeah, I wanted to go back down there also to just explore the whole... It's a really upsetting situation that they allowed that case to go forward. So much injustice going on. Let's see, we'll see if we can find this Oren Levi thing. But he's sitting there in Eric Adams' office with Hawk Newsom, who's the head of Black Lives Matter New York. And obviously, you know, Oren Levi is there. These people are disruptors, paid agitators. And so I was talking earlier about Scott Libido. You know, they're not going to just control one side of this if they want to control the narrative. They want to control both sides. And, you know, you get somebody like Scott Libido for the same reason that you'd have Danny Presti with the restaurant, so that other people who might be likely to defy the lockdown and keep their restaurant open sort of see that and say, oh, well, that guy's already doing it. I don't want to be a copycat. And also, look at that. He got all these felonies. Don't want felonies. So there's a lot of different reasons why people might do that. Let's see. How do we get to this here? Menu. So that's the point of doing that. To the person who was upset that I said that Scott Libido is doing that. That's my opinion. Well, let's see. How come we don't? Yeah, I don't have that Scott Libido stuff handy, but here we go. Here's Oren Levi hanging out with, how do we get that on there? Oh, it left. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a difficult operation. We won't bother with that with the gloves on. But Oren Levi hanging out in Eric Adams' office. He's one of these people like Ezra Frisch, Crackhead Barney, Walter Masterson, George Webb, Ian Carroll, Jules Kwang, all these different people. And by the way, this is my opinion. I could be wrong. You're free to disagree with me. But this is what I think. We've got years of evidence of these people doing things they should be arrested for, but aren't. And then people say, no, Scott Libido gets arrested all the time. Okay, right. So does Danny Presti. But somehow magically those felonies went away. And when I was communicating with Presti's lawyer, when I got right to the heart of the matter, he stopped communicating with me. It's weird. Maybe that's normal. Maybe I said something that offended him. You know, maybe all of these things are normal. I don't know. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of walks, I guess, to test out this system. I mean, really, there have been a lot of times that just walking around New York, there have been surprisingly few problems, even without this kind of failover system. But I got so into trying to make these broadcasts work, you know, from anywhere, obviously, that I'm not familiar with the network. I don't know, I just got really into these different aggregating things and bonding things and trying to figure out how to make that work on a walk. I guess there's no way to secure that problem down there in Soho. I don't know, somebody could go and sniff radio signals and figure out what's going on and maybe come up with some complicated solution. There's always a solution. It's just a matter of how important is that problem and how far am I willing to go to solve it. Did people see the other night Charles's amazing hut life? He's living the hut life. I forget where he said he is, Sambawa or something like that, Super Suck Beach. I've actually heard of that before. I had some friends in LA who were big surfers. We used to talk about stuff like that. It's a strange name for a beach, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, that situation down with the Trump conviction, just so that they can say, oh yeah, he's a convicted felon, it's disgraceful. Somebody was sending me a story today that Norm Eisen and Jen Rubin are starting some kind of social media news site or something on Blue Sky or whatever. I mean, I guess they look at what's happened with all of us, all of the independent voices in news that have kind of risen to the surface through social media over the past 5 to 10 years. And they're like, well, we should be doing that, except that they're liars who are conning people. And it's, you know, people didn't leave, viewers didn't turn away from MSNBC because they don't like those letters. It's Norm and Rachel Maddow and all the liars who are on there lying to them. It doesn't matter if they're going to lie to them now on their own Twitter channel instead of television. People hopefully will still know that they're lying. But the thing is, we really need justice, criminal justice for those people. Norm, those guys need to lose their law licenses and really suffer some repercussions for what they've done and continue to do. It's alarming to me that they were allowed to go forward with that sham conviction. Very, very upsetting. So that was another reason to think that there might have been deliberate digital harassment down there, but I definitely think that the frequency of the camera cutting out was due to the way I had this system set up previously, and it seems like the new way of doing it is better, I think. So people get an opportunity here to check out Fifth Avenue. So there's a lot of new stores that have opened. Certain things closed. I think I never saw this before. Vouerie. Pandora, like this seems to me like a cheap mall store that should not be on Fifth Avenue, but I guess because everything went out of business, they are just, maybe most of this is new. Recycle linens. I didn't know you could do that. It's not as cold as it has been the past several days. It was in the 20s, but it is still kind of cold, so maniacs don't really like the cold, I guess. Not coming out so much. The store's out of business on Fifth Avenue. It's kind of a mess. And Eric Adams, you know, everything is great according to him. Look at that MTA. He's got a super long lens. What's he doing? What's he doing with that? Is this guy spying on people? Yeah, he's taking pictures of license plates. People maybe doing the congestion pricing. Meanwhile, you got Amazon doing a sort over here on the street. New York City has become their warehouse. It's a weird feeling on the street. Perhaps it's just me. But you know, we've got Donald Trump coming in like a week here. The inauguration, I think, is 1 week from today, right? The 20th. Lots of stuff happening in the courts as well. George's brother has been going absolutely extra crazy over the holidays. He loves to do that. He's such a miserable piece of shit. He really should go to hell. I mean, he will, ultimately, but the sooner the better. What a terrible guy. I mean, who does he think he's helping? You know, he's supposed to be this Air Force, you know, some kind of military good guy. He's an absolute piece of shit. Fighting against the First Amendment, even if he doesn't like what I'm saying. It's disgraceful. And George as well. People should realize what absolute miscreants the two of them are. So that's the thing. Ian, he's clearly part of that. I mean, he was helping Mindy. Remember, he shows up even after John and I set him straight to whatever extent we did. Look at that. It looks like there's construction going on there at the Flatiron Building. It's not like he stepped away from that Mindy stuff. I mean, Ian is perhaps a more skilled social engineer than George, but he seems to be. See the studs? I mean, they've like turned Fifth Avenue into the mall. I don't know that these stores would have really, hey, here's a Porsche. That's an interesting thing to be there. This is new Hoka. Eisenberg's pubic hair sandwich shop. This place once delivered French fries with a pubic hair through the French fry. Charles hates that story. Now, this is also something new. 10 Ichi Mart and Deli. Huh, Japanese market. That's also new. Sol's Wee Bakery and Cafe. Stoops is new. Cannabis dispensary. Licensed. Yeah, it seems like there's more illegal ones opening. Here's a Hello Kitty store. That's new. So all kinds of new stuff there on Fifth Avenue. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, it's better than nothing being there, but the nature of the stores around has changed. I was in Target the other day. They opened a Target on 23rd Street, which I guess that's good. I don't know. I mean, everything else is closed, so you need somewhere to buy stuff. But they had stuff in Target that made me realize why you didn't normally have Target in New York City. It's just like a warehouse loaded up with junk that nobody's going to buy. I guess if you're in the middle of Texas or future of garbage. I mean, if you're in the middle of Texas or someplace with a lot of land, it's okay to have a giant store filled up with infrequently purchased stuff. But I think that doesn't work in New York City. You need to have high turnover because the the real estate's so expensive. Normally that's the way it worked. Everything's getting turned on its head. I was listening to a pretty smart analysis of how all the socialist type meddling in California has screwed up the home insurance market and artificially inflated the value of homes because the government has made certain mandates about insurance, and that without those mandates the cost of insurance would be so high that just these exorbitantly expensive homes, it wouldn't be possible for them to exist, or homes would cost 5-10 times what they do because they're impossible to insure. People don't get it. I mean, that's the thing. They're like, oh, the government's going to back this insurance. We spoke about this with Charles briefly. I'm no insurance expert, but insurance is like math. They're betting that most people's houses will not burn down if they make all these weird laws that mandate certain things about insurance such that people are building houses where they're gonna burn down. Insurance doesn't work anymore. And everybody loses their house and nobody has any money to pay for it. And then somehow the government always seems to just print money and give people money, or when they want to. Nobody in North Carolina, we spoke about this also with Charles. I was sad that my North Carolina show didn't work out. That's not the biggest deal in the world. Those people are facing much bigger problems. I think this has been mostly a pretty good test. I mean, like I said, it's hard to say. Frequently I walk around with this thing and never get cut off from the internet. That one spot down over there is sort of always a problem. Guys, the one time it ever froze like that and came back, luckily, was when I was chasing Norm. I wonder if I just leave it alone, would it come back by itself? I don't think so, though. How would it do that? Strange, these computer problems. Always difficult to figure out. Yeah, there's the Masons. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Nice.
Of course, these guys know to take the bicycle up on the sidewalk. Yeah, so George's brother continues to agitate in the court. He's writing all kinds of letters to lawyers in other cases. It's just this, they need to make anti-lawfare laws to criminalize this type of abuse in the courts, where if you can show that somebody, is deliberately, there should be harsh penalties because it's just perverted the civil and criminal justice system so much. Like prosecutors, these people who have wrongly prosecuted the January 6th defendants, it shouldn't just be restitution to the defendants. It's the malicious prosecution. It's just got to stop. We have no justice. I think it's one of the biggest problems we're facing right now. I mean, Larry Klayman used to always say it, when you don't have any recourse in the courts, that's when people resort to violence. So they're really playing with fire to mess with justice like this. George's brother is among those that I'm talking about when I say they. Playing with fire. They're disrupting society in a way that's really destructive. Shameful. Really hope he goes to jail. So I'm sad the camera cut out back over there. Otherwise, this would have been a successful. But I guess if there's not a failure, then we don't really learn anything, right? Is this Elon Musk? He's another one. So right, see, back to the social engineering, there was this announcement by somebody that, Elon Musk is following Ian Carroll. It's like, well, all right, who cares? Why is that announced? That seems like sort of a strange thing to announce. Then, you know, Ian immediately ratios Elon Musk about something to do with Israel, one of Ian's favorite topics. He loves to conflate Judaism with Zionism and point to things that he concludes that Israel is responsible for and really rile up the crowd to promote a lot of Jewish hatred. Let's not mince words. That's really what they're promoting. And he likes to say, oh, no, I'm separating that over here. But it just never seems to play out that way. Here's the cookie place getting overrun after school. I don't know. I'm not impressed with that Crumble cookie restaurant. I don't think I'm going to give it my business. Cookies are fine. It's not the biggest line I've ever seen. And by the way, I think I've revealed that the line is huge, not because solely demand. It's because the people working in there stand around and do nothing, even when there's no line. I went in there one time specifically because there was just no line. And nobody even reacted to customers being in there. Guess they're getting paid by the hour too. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Oh, look, there we go. Another freeze right over here. So let's see. Will it come back by itself? What happens if I walk up the block? Let's see, what if we disconnect it like that? Wow, really getting hit right over here. Well, that's interesting. Disconnecting it from there brought it back. All right, well, perhaps something was learned. I don't know, maybe we got kicked off the internet again. But right over here, where they recently installed something, just got hit by more radio stuff and we got a little recovery in at the end. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to become a sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Thanks for watching.